Well, speaking of your contract, I'm just gonna skip to the question that's on everyone's mind. Why are you in trouble with the university right now? What's happening?
That's a very difficult but important question.
Take your time.
So, as you know, I hold this position. My contract makes it very clear. There's no revocation clause in my contract. I am the Abdul Hadi Taher chair. Now, Omar, you've seen my contract. It's the very first line. It's clear as day. There's no outs or wiggle room in this.
Yes.
Well, you know, I came to AUC with some small degree of fanfare. I was doing national television interviews in my first semester on the job. I was doing great work, and I received a lot of accommodation from the dean and from President Ricciardoni himself, actually. But after my very first semester, I was contacted by President Ricciardoni and asked to fly to Malibu.
Texas Malibu.
Malibu, California.
California, I'm sorry.
Right on the beach. Because Tarek Taher wanted to meet with me to discuss the Abdul Hadi Taher chair and what's going on.
He's the son of Abdul Hadi Taher, yes?
I had no idea who he was at the time. I thought perhaps Mr. Taher, Abdul Hadi Taher, was still alive. You know, one of the interesting things, Omar, is despite how important endowed chairs are and how prestigious they are, very few professors ever look up who the people are who endow the chairs. And so I didn't know a whole lot about Abdul Hadi Taher, but I'm told to go and meet with his son, Tarek Taher.
Yes, okay.
And his very young wife, Jessica Taher.
Okay.
So I fly to Malibu at President Ricciardoni's request, and they reimbursed me for the ticket. I brought all of the books that I assigned to my students in my comparative religions classes. I gifted them to Mr. Taher, to Tarek Taher. And we had a very, I would say, it began as a very uncomfortable meeting. I was under the impression by Frank Ricciardoni and the dean at the time, Nate Bowditch, that Tarek Taher wanted to just kind of know what was going on and to meet the person who held his father's endowed chair, that he wanted to, you know, feel like he was part of the process. And I love talking about comparative religions. So
yes, you do.
That was a joy to be able to go and meet with someone and explain what it is that I do for a living. So I rented a car and I drove to his palatial home in Malibu, and he's showing me all of his fancy sports cars and Maseratis and Bentleys and
Ferraris everywhere.
Ferraris, yeah, it was amazing. It's right on the beach in Malibu, and he serves me this gigantic steak. I'm mostly a vegetarian, as you might know, but I still ate it. It was delicious. And it became very clear right away that there was some tension. So Tarek Taher explained to me that his father had passed away and that he was now the executor of his father's legacy. And he was concerned that it was explained to me that he woke up one night with having a dream that he needed to apply significant scrutiny to the Taher chair and what was going on there. And he interpreted that to be a religiously motivated dream sent to him by God.
Did he tell you that, or was that conveyed to you by someone else?
That was conveyed to me by his wife, Jessica, during the meeting. So he was concerned because he wanted me to use my position to favor Islam over other religions. He expressed to me in no uncertain terms that he would prefer that I use my authority and my teaching to teach why Islam is right and others are wrong to the furtherance of the end of making converts at AUC, to converting people to Islam. He was very proud of the fact that he himself had converted several people to Islam, including his wife, and he wanted me to do the same. He also wanted to be able to pre-approve all of my lectures before I gave them.
Wow.
He also wanted to censor the version of the Quran that I assigned my students for our Islam section in the World Religions class. He said that my translation, he called it my translation. I've never translated the Quran before.
Yours.
No, I assigned the Oxford translation of the Quran, which is an academically very respected translation. He said that it had removed Allah from the Quran.
How so?
Well, that was my question. Well, if it has done that, that's a pretty serious thing. You've
Yes,
removed Allah from the Quran. And no, he understood that the translation of the Arabic word Allah to God was the same thing as removing Allah from the Quran.
So like they translate the word Allah instead of into A-L-L-A-H into God.
Yes, the G-O-D.
Yes.
And I explained to him in the Christian Bible that I assign, they translate, or in the Hebrew Bible, they translate Elohim into God.
Yes. Hebrew to English, yes.
Yes, God in English. So this is just how translations work. You take a word and you put it into the language that people can understand. That's basically what translation is.
But wouldn't you think, but wouldn't you think that it's irrational from someone to ask to a non-Muslim to convert other students to Islam?
Yes. I don't think that's rational. I didn't reveal my religion to Tarek Taher. I don't think that's any of his business.
Mm-hmm.
But he, it was very clear that he had demands about how the program was run and how I teach and what I teach and what I can say and what I can assign, that as a scholar in good conscience, I was not able to agree to those demands.
But does he even have the right to do so? Like, even if he is the heir to his father's fortune?
I've seen no evidence that he does. I've asked the university to show me that he has the right to have any say in what happens whatsoever, and they have shown me absolutely no proof.
But what about the endowment? Can he control the endowment in the bank?
Well, he claimed, and the money was already given in 2002 by his father.
Yes, in 2002.
He claimed during our meeting that he has the contractual ability to take the money back whenever he wants.
Is that true, though?
I asked him to show me that, and he didn't. I've since asked Frank Richard Adonia and Ihab Abdelrahman several times to show me, and they haven't. So I've seen absolutely no proof that he has any legal claim. I mean, his father wanted to establish a chair in comparative religions.
Yes.
Now his son is saying, I'm not allowed to teach Hinduism and Buddhism. I'm not allowed to introduce my students to any living Jews or anything Jewish, and which would seem to contradict his father's wishes entirely.
Yes, exactly.
So I'd like to see some written contract that says he's allowed to do that. I'm looking out in some ways for his father's legacy more than he is. But his father wanted to establish a chair that looked at all religions on their own terms. That is a fact, and now he's claiming that he could take it back. I told him, look, these are legal questions that you have to take up with the university. But instead, what I did is I spent the next 2 or 3 hours talking to him about my respect for Islam, the way that I teach Islam, some of the strides I made with particular students who were very hostile to other religions in my classes, and some of the progress we've made in just individual student accounts. I love telling stories, which is a great way to interact with rich donors, is to tell them stories about what happens in your class and in your teaching. And by the end of the meeting, he softened.
Okay.
He was more relaxed. And then he was starting to ask me more questions about why I do it this way or that way. And they weren't prosecutorial questions by the end of the meeting. They were
actually just curious questions.
He was interested.
Okay.
And I told him he could come to my classroom anytime. I'd love to have him over. I'd love him to give a talk on why his father chose to endow this chair at AUC. I mean, I was going to give him a platform. And we ended up leaving with kisses and hugs all around. We stayed in touch. I sent him cards, and I invited him to my wedding.
Did he come though?
No, he did not. He didn't reply to my invitation. But I've been incredibly open with him. I've sent him syllabi and all sorts of things. But then after the next semester in July of 2017...
That's about like a year afterwards, or just...
That was about 6 months after our meeting, 7 months after our meeting. A year into my job, basically. A year after I've held the chair, that is, as you've seen in my contract, there's no room for taking that away. Mm-hmm. I receive an email from the provost of the university, Ihab Abdelrahman. I don't know if he was actually the permanent provost at the time. I think he may have still been the interim provost.
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's the permanent provost now, saying that the donor has requested that we cancel the Abdul Hadi Taher chair, so you're not allowed to call yourself the Abdul Hadi Taher chair.
They basically ask you to relinquish your title. Basically.
At first, they told me to relinquish my title. There was no asking about it.
Demand.
They refused to. He wouldn't speak to me on the phone. He wouldn't meet with me, the provost. I explained to him, hey, whatever your issues are with Tarek Taher, I have a contract. I am the Abdul Hadi Taher chair, not by not by grace, but by rights. We have an agreement. We have a legal agreement, and we need to address this. But at the same time, I was also very flexible. If they wanted to give me a different title or renegotiate other sorts of things to make sure that I was secure in my position and that the comparative religions program was guaranteed to continue, I was very open to them calling me something else. They could call me the provost chair, the president's chair, or the Bartlett chair, or whatever they wanted. And I was very willing to play ball and to find a common solution. I just asked if we could sit down and meet. Mm-hmm. And the provost has refused. This happened 19 months ago. And for the first 18 months of that, he refused to even sit down with me. I still have never met the provost, Ihab Abdelrahman.
So you've tried to reach out to him, but it's fallen on deaf ears, basically.
At least 25 times. My lawyer has requested meetings. We had a meeting scheduled last semester. He finally said that he was going to meet with me. And then when he found out that I was bringing my lawyer, he canceled the night before. He says, I won't meet with you if you have any representation with you. And let me just say, I wasn't trying to bring my lawyer with me. It was because he wouldn't meet with me for 16, 17 months that I needed to go and get a lawyer.
Yes, it's right to get a lawyer.
Yeah, when he was when I started receiving legal threats from the university for
termination. What legal threats?
Yeah, so the university has began threatening me. By the way, I never agreed to give up this title. I said I will only give up this title once we negotiate a new position, so that I can be compensated with a new title, and so that I'm sure that the chair of comparative religions will be secure. That it doesn't have to be the Abdul Hadi Tahir chair of comparative religions, but I want to make sure this comparative religions program
stays as it is.
This jewel, this gem in AUC's crown remains intact. So that to me was non-negotiable. But I'm willing to negotiate all kinds of names and difference. I was open, and I wasn't bringing my lawyer. I was just going to sit down with a cup of coffee and the provost and work out a solution.
Negotiate, yes.
Yeah, but after 16, 17 months, and now I'm starting to get legal threats, which I began to receive from the university. I received several legal threats from Sunanda Holmes and from Ihab Abdelrahman, and now from the dean, Robert Switzer, who's initiated a faculty misconduct trial or allegation against me. It became clear that I needed representation.
So you got a lawyer after that?
I did, and because I had the lawyer, then the provost refused to meet with me. Later on, he scheduled a meeting right before Christmas and said I could bring my lawyer. It was just a few weeks after he said, I won't meet with you if you have a lawyer, so he flip-flopped a little bit there. My lawyer was out of town. It was right before Christmas, and my lawyer couldn't come, so we had to, say we have to reschedule.
Yes.
And he said, "No, I gave you your chance." I've been waiting for 18 months, 19 months at that point. One date didn't work for the provost, and now it's or it didn't work for our team. I've been open for 19 months, and finally one day didn't work for me. Can we do it next week? Or they were just it was.
It's a mess. It's a mess.
But basically, the provost and the president's position is that my contract is in their hands. They can decide which aspects of the contract are good and which ones they don't want to follow. And that's not how a contract works. Our contract was negotiated.
Yes.
I wanted more research money. I wanted more salary. They wanted to give me less. I wanted this title or that title. They didn't. But at the end, we shook hands. We signed a document.
Came to an agreement.
And that's the deal. You can't unilaterally change a deal after you made it. And they disagree. They've told me it's because Tariq Tahir made this decision. Tariq Tahir has told me his decision, I've heard from Tariq Tahir that his decision was made for these religious reasons.
Yes.
These religions discriminating against me based on what he perceives as my lack of correct religious belief.
Okay.
And the university, instead of telling him, no, I'm sorry, we don't strip professors of their titles because of their religion.
They try to preach.
or their teaching of religion. I mean, unless I were to violate some, ethical standards, which I have never done. Instead of telling him no, they said yes to a billionaire.
Yeah.
Now, let me just say, this billionaire is a pretty unique billionaire. He's a billionaire who was arrested in the United States for drunken driving, for DUI, who fled bail, who skipped bail and fled to Saudi Arabia to escape justice in the United States and was eventually imprisoned in the United States. This is not a
A law-abiding citizen.
well, let me just say, this is not someone who's qualified to decide what should be taught in a comparative religions class. He has a bachelor's degree. That's it.
In what exactly?
I don't know, but it wasn't religion.
It's something.
It wasn't religion. It was clear to me during our conversation that although I wanted to the extent possible, make this individual appreciate what I'm doing and to please them, that he was not someone that had the academic qualifications to decide what goes on at a major university. Where it stands right now, Omar, is the university is accusing me of faculty misconduct. The charge is that I refuse to follow the provost's direction to surrender my title.
Which you see as unjust or...
I see it as illegal.
Illegal.
My title is established by law in our contract.
Mm-hmm.
And at an American taxpayer-funded institution, which AUC is, we receive USAID monies.
Yes.
It's incorporated in the United States of America. We are not allowed to discriminate based on religion, whether it's Tarek Tahir's religion or anyone else's.
Do you think let's say, for example, the Department of USAID or whatever department's responsible for USAID know about what's happening right now?
I don't know if USAID knows.
Mm-hmm.
I think they should know. I think this is a serious thing to be concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
And what I still hope happens is that Frank Ricciardoni, Sunanda Holmes, and Ihab Abdelrahman, we can sit down, have a cup of coffee, shake hands on a new arrangement, and solve this.
So you are willing to sit down and negotiate?
This entire issue can be solved in 30 minutes if people have goodwill and common sense.
Professor Duker, well, if your contract or your title is causing you so much trouble, why not just give up the title? Could you not accept a different title or perhaps a higher salary or anything along these lines?
Absolutely I could. And I'm willing to accept a different title or a renegotiation of my contract. I'm open to that.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm not open to is losing the comparative religions program.
Yes.
So there were two elements of why I took this position that remain very important to me. And the main one is that this chair is the only thing that guarantees the comparative religions program exists. I am the only full-time faculty member at AUC teaching comparative religions. This semester, I'm the only faculty member teaching comparative religions. And apart from this endowed chair, which is a permanent part of the university, or at least legally it's supposed to be, there's no guarantee that we'll have this amazing program. Mm-hmm. Indeed, since the provost has been demanding that I stop calling myself the Abdul Hadi Tahir chair, more recently my department chair and Pascal Khazela and the dean, Robert Switzer, have begun claiming that there's never been a comparative religions program.
How is that even possible?
There is just so much documentation of a comparative religions program at AUC, but they're saying, no, it never existed. Show us proof that it exists. I show them lots of documents, and they don't respond. So if there's not a comparative religions chair, this program doesn't exist. And that's my concern, because the students need this class.
They want this class.
Yeah, Egypt needs this program. AUC needs this program. This program is important.
Yes.
And I have a moral obligation not to sit on my hands while Egypt loses this unique program in the MENA region. I am scared of what happens to higher education, to religious education in Egypt, in the Arabic-speaking world, in the Muslim world, if we start getting rid of secular comparative religions programs that teach empathetic comprehension of different religions, if a rich billionaire Muslim doesn't want it to be taught. Because there's a lot of those out there.
Yeah.
And I respect many of them, but not if they come and say that you can't teach different religions. I can't do that. I have a moral obligation to my students, to my discipline, and to Egypt, I feel, to fight for this program because it's important.
So you would say that one thing that you will not stand down upon or relinquish is the program.
Yes.
You can negotiate your title,
your salary. I'm very willing to negotiate all the numbers, all the titles, but the comparative religions program is essential. And I will not I will not consent. I should say it's not ultimately up to me. The president can, have me expelled from the university.
We hope that won't happen.
He has a lot of power, but I will not consent to anything that gets rid of the comparative religions program because I think it's very important. Now, that's the main reason is because I think the program's essential. Now, the other reason is, and this is also a profession. It's a calling first and foremost, but it's also a profession. Look, this is a contractual benefit that's been promised to me.
Yes.
This is guaranteed to me in writing. I wouldn't have come here. I'd be teaching in Michigan or Kentucky or someplace like that right now if I didn't receive that. And if they want to take it away or if they want to change it, they do need to come up with a different package. And I'm very willing and open to doing that. But so far, the administration's approach on this matter, like it's been on all sorts of matters since President Ricciardone came into power and Ihab Abdelrahman has assumed the provost position, has been, we don't need to negotiate with you. We're upper management. You do what we say. You're just an employee. And if they can make that claim, but one thing they can't do is tell me to stop calling myself the Abdul Hadi Tahir chair. It's in my contract. So they can't have me arrested or fire me for that. And if they do, then that's wrongful termination. The best path forward for them is to sit down. I really think if they could perhaps humble themselves a little bit to just sit down and meet me. I still don't even know what the provost looks like. I've never met him before in my life, even though this battle has been going on for nearly 2 years. If they just sat down and got to know me, had a cup of coffee, and just threw a few numbers around and a few different titles around, we could solve this problem. I don't think it would take 45 minutes.
So you are very much willing.
I'm very willing. And you know what? If they want to get rid of the comparative religions program, if they're dead set on doing that, that's their prerogative.
You won't take part in that.
I won't agree to it.
You won't agree to it.
But then you still have the problem in my contract. You'll need to buy out my contract.
Somehow.
No, you'll have to buy it out. Pay for the years and move on. Now I would be very disappointed about that. I won't agree to stay here without the program.
Yeah, of course.
But if you want to get rid of it, you're going to have to go all the way and get rid of it.